Phil Houston, and I'm the owner of the Chilko Experience. And my job this afternoon is to host a little short webinar for people in the travel industry and guests in addition to that would like to know more about what we do at the Chilko Experience up in BC. Before we start though, I'd like to set the table as what you're going to see here. And real briefly, in the late 70s, I had a chance to travel for about a year. And part of that travel took me to Alaska and through BC twice. And while I enjoyed Alaska a lot, I like BC a lot better. And there was a region up there called the Chilcotin, which is 50,000 square miles. It has 1,000 people that live there, so one person every 50 square miles. It's a very vast, pure area. I tell people it's Montana 1910. And I fell in love with the Chilcotin, but I came back to the Midwest, got married, had 5 kids, didn't go anywhere for 20 years. But in 2000, events worked out that allowed my wife and I to go to the Chilcotin. We bought an old guest ranch up there. It was just 5 acres, a couple old cabins, and a main house. But it was enough that we could take our family up there for a couple summers and see how they liked it, and things worked out very, very well. So in 2002, we began a 5-year build program that ended up taking 14 buildings, 6 guest homes, and making one of the nicest wilderness compounds in North America. And we used it privately until 2015. And that was the year we opened it up commercially. My family has grown. We have to do something with this place. And so we opened up commercially, and it's going very, very well. It's one of the nicest rec facilities in North America because of the location, architecture, lots of different things. We've enjoyed it. So I'd like to tell you about the Chilko Experience. We're in the area called the Chilcotin. Like I said, it's 50,000 square miles. A part of that area is called the Chilko Valley. And most of the people that live in the Chilcotin live on the single highway that go through it. We're about an hour off the highway, and we live on a 5 million acre wilderness tract that has 20 people that live there in the summer plus some guests, and about 4 people that live there in the winter. And the vastness and the purity up there are just absolutely amazing. With that, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how do you compare vacations. So I'm an economist by schooling, and an economist has to look at apples, bananas, and oranges and derive some sort of a meaningful relationship between them. So how do you compare a vacation to, let's say, Tokyo versus Berlin versus Antarctica? My yardstick is that there's 3 criteria that every vacation has. It might be good, it might be bad, but they have a location, they have architecture, and they have activities. And what you're seeing here is Chilko Lake. And there's no reason why anybody should know about Chilko Lake, but it is the largest alpine lake in North America, alpine being defined as 1,000 meters. It is 50 miles in length. It is ringed by mountains and glaciers. It's the prettiest place I've ever been in my entire life. And I've been on this lake over 500 times with guests, and I still enjoy going out every single time. This is what Chilko Lake looks like at the south end. If you kind of come to the middle and look to the south, you get a little bit different vista. A lot of people say, well, where are you at? And so this is where we're at and how we get there. Slide. Everybody comes to Vancouver. And Vancouver is 93 miles north of Seattle, for people in the States that don't know exactly where it's at. But it's from there, it's a 1-hour charter flight up to the Chilko Experience. And if you send me customers, I just need to know when their flight arrivals are. We arrange all that to put them on a charter. And if they come in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we will have them at Chilko in time for cocktails that night. We have a plan B. There's a commercial flights into Williams Lake that comes in about 6 times a day, except for Saturday, which is only twice. And there's a 3-hour drive out to Chilko from there. You can drive it, but it's about a 9 or 10-hour drive, and very, very few people do. So that's how we get there. This is what usually comes in, a twin-engine plane holding 6 to 8 people. Has lots of luggage, 3,000-foot gravel strip about 2 miles from our facility. So that was our location, and this is our architecture. We have 6 guest homes available for clients, and this is the main house. We're kind of designed on a hub and spoke, and this is the hub. It's a timber frame design. We built it in 2004. It served us very well, 4,000 square feet. There's 3 bedrooms in here. One of the things that we don't do at Chilko is charge single supplements. I think that's really unfair to people that might be widows or widowers or whatever, just single for any reason. And we have 3 independent bedrooms in this house, and if somebody comes up singly, this is where we'll stick them. Like I said, this house is a timber frame design. The timbers are old. They took them out of a 1904 grain elevator in the Kamloops area, which is about 7 hours from us. And we recycled them into this building. And what's exceptional about them is they've got an old patina to them. They're bolt holes and cracks, and there's a nice warmth about it that you don't get with new lumber. So again, this is where everybody gathers. This is where the internet's at. This is where the meals are at. There's a bar in the basement. We have a mural here that a lot of people really enjoy. My wife's an antique collector, and everybody's seen the dogs playing poker. Well, we have bears fly fishing. Second house I'll show you, just real briefly, it's called the Tower House. And I tell people if Elton John came to visit me, this is where I'd stick him. It's 2,500 square foot. It is a 1-bedroom loft. It sleeps 2 people. And it was set up for my wife and I. We used it for about 6 years. And in 2017, my mother-in-law passed. She was quite elderly. And my wife didn't come up that summer. So we gave it up and put it in rotation for the guest. And we've never really taken it out. And it's been a big success. This is what it looks like. It's designed to be very crooked. And we had a very great builder who was kind of the Michelangelo of wood. His name was Bayes Faller. He was 34 years old at the time. And we gave him carte blanche on this house. And this is kind of what he did for us. Thank you, Bayes. An overview of the facilities. And if you'll see kind of in the center there, that's the main house. These other houses kind of in a circle around it. What you don't see behind here is another 7 support buildings like a gym and a greenhouse and shops and all that. Those are back in the trees. As important as the overall view of the facility is, I think what's more important in this photo is the background. There is probably 5 or 10% of a 5 million acre wilderness tract in your view right here. It is just a huge area. And I've tried to convey this vastness to families and friends for 19 years and have failed. But this is my best attempt. A 10,000 acre ranch is a large place, and most people concur with that. But we can place 500 10,000 acre ranches in a 5 million acre tract. And now people sort of get an idea of where we're at. But it's the vastness and the purity up here that draws me back year after year after year. I'm going to give you a geography lesson and why this region is so unique and why it offers so many multi-sport activities. If you look at the mountains, we're looking at the top of the screen is south, which is contrary to most maps. But anyway, that's south, and that's the beginning of Chilko Lake, and it goes 50 miles to the south, and it is ringed by these mountains and glaciers, and it's just a wonderful place. The river that you see in front of you, that's kind of the overflow, and that's the Chaco River. And in the summer, when the lake rises 3 or 4 feet with the snow melt, the river rises 3 or 4 feet. And the river is important for a couple of 4 reasons. It's got really good fly fishing there. It's got whitewater rafting. But 1 million sockeye salmon come up in the river in September, and it draws in over 100 grizzly bears that come down to eat the salmon, kind of in this area that you're seeing in this photo right now. The geography here is we have mountains, we have lake, we have river, and then we have this huge plateau. And the mountains are nice, but you can't do a whole lot in them. You can do things on the river, you can do things on the lake, and on the plateau, it gives you just lots of versatility. And we have 13 different activities we do here. This is the same view in the fall. The other view was middle of winter, but it gave a lot of clarity. Beautiful. We have millions and millions of poplar or aspen trees, as they call them. It's gorgeous. And this is an example of this plateau that goes on forever and ever. In here is where you get to ride horses and quads and hike and just do whatever you'd like to do. We've talked about our location. We've talked about our architecture. I want to talk about the activities. And this is the most important thing that I'm going to share with you today. And this is the reason why. If you send me clients and 3 years from now they're talking about Chilko at Thanksgiving, they're not going to talk about the architecture and they're not going to talk about the food. They're going to talk about the things that they did with their families, how they bonded with nature, how they bonded with each other. So this is one of our activities. This is a day run down Lava Canyon. We'll talk about it just a little bit more, but it's kind of a good place to jump off in terms of activities. I have 3 slides here. They're not the most exciting, but they're the most important things I'm going to show you, and it highlights what we do. If I have a guest for a single day at Chilko Lake, I'm going to take him on a lake tour. It's going to take all day long. We're going to go down 50 miles and back 50 miles. We're going to stop and go to some hanging lakes, have nice picnics, go visit people, just have a wonderful day. And what's so nice about this is it's something that we can take an 84-year-old out and a 4-year-old, and they can do the same thing together. And it's just a wonderful family day on the lake. Day 2, probably go out on quads, if that's what you'd like. It's one of the favorite activities for guests. We have several hundred miles of trails. We putz along at 10 or 15 miles an hour, but it doesn't sound like really fast, but in the course of 3 hours, you've gone 45 miles, and you've seen a lot of territory. We got horseback riding in some of the most beautiful areas in the world. We use a outfitter in the next valley, a guy named Bracewell over there, and his family has been there for over 100 years, keeps over 30 horses, so we can offer horseback riding in the degree that you want. If people are good and want to canter, fine. If you're beginners and you're not going to do that, anything that's desired is available. Of course, we have kayaking on the lake. The bears, we'll talk about in depth a little bit later, but there's lots of people come in to see our bears. We've got photography. There's hiking. We have a helicopter service in the next valley. If you want to go out for a couple hours, that's a little bit extra. It costs a couple $1,000s an hour to rent a chopper. It's a wonderful trip. Halfway down the lake, most people know about Dos Equis Beer, who has a long-running ad campaign about the most interesting man in the world. Well, halfway down the lake is a gentleman named Shindy. And Shindy is 73 years old. He's probably 5'4", weighs 120 pounds, and has hobbit-sized feet because he doesn't wear shoes. He's also an artist. But in 1975, Shindy was living in Philadelphia. It was a very urban life. And he got tired of it, and he walked out, and he came to the side of Chilko Lake, and he has lived on a subsistence basis for about 47 years. And he's a good friend of mine, and he has this wonderful organic garden. And on the lake trips, one of the things we do is we stop and we visit this guy, and people just absolutely love him. He's kind of a half Gondé and half Bear Grylls. So he's a survivalist, but he's an old soul and very enjoyable, and does some neat artwork. And it's just a highlight for the day for most folks. We've had a Viking axe range for over 15 years. And I understand that it's quite a thing now to throw axes in bars. I don't go to bars anymore, so I don't know. We've probably taught 500 people how to throw an axe. If you've played baseball, 3 or 4 minutes. If you haven't played baseball, it might take you 10 or 15 minutes to kind of get the hang of it. People that like it the most, everybody likes it. But if you take a 12-year-old kid and you show him how to throw an axe, he'll spend 3 or 4 hours on the axe range every single day. As I said, we have whitewater rafting, and the strength of our whitewater rafting up there is a stretch of water. It's 18 miles long. It's called Lava Canyon. It is continuous Class 4 and 5 waters. It makes it the longest run of Class 4 and 5 waters in North America, and that is rafted in 45 minutes. And historically, the only way to go through Lava Canyon was as part of a 5-day float trip. Our friends that run Rome have been very kind to us, and when the stars align and the guides are around and there is equipment, we can go down and run Lava Canyon on a day basis, which is kind of nice because you have a nice breakfast, you come down, run the canyon, and you're back for a nice dinner. We have really good fishing at Chilko. I don't talk a lot about it simply because I don't want to get labeled as a fishing lodge. It's one of 13 activities that we do, but it's not the only activity that we do. This lady in the picture here happens to be my daughter, and this is a bull trout. This is what populates the lake up there at Chilko. On our website, we have this grid. It shows you all of the activities that we have available and the periods of time that they are available. The top 10 are all included in your package. The bottom 3, helicopter flights, whitewater rafting, and fly fishing, are all additional charge. So there's plenty to do. Talking about Shindy just a little bit, I thought I'd show you his house that he lives in. He looks kind of like a hobbit. He lives sort of in a hobbit-like house. And I guess this is the kind of house an artist should live in. This is the essence of what we do, and it has nothing to do with fishing. This is one of my favorite people in the world. He is 16 years old in this picture, and he's Josh Gilbert out of Dallas, Texas. And Josh was so excited this particular day because his little brother had outfished him the whole day, and this was his first fish of the day. But he could be riding an ATV or horseback or hiking or kayaking. It really doesn't matter. But what you're seeing in this picture is a young man bonding with nature at a very high level. Josh was 16 at the time, and I told him, well, maybe someday you can come back and come up for a summer when you're 18 or older. And in December of 17, Josh called me up and says, Mr. Houston, I would like to come up and volunteer at Chilko for the summer of 18. I've never been to any place I like better, and I think that would just be grand. And so Josh came up and worked for us last year, spent 2 months. Now he's off at Baylor, where he's a freshman. And it was a good experience. And it was just fun watching this young man grow for the 60 days that he was with us. Everybody has horses, horseback riding. It's just, where do you get to do it? And we have some exceptional trails and beautiful places up at Chilko that just, it's hard to believe how nice they are. We have a wood-fired hot tub. We are off the grid by about 40 miles. And so we have to generate all of our own power. We don't heat our hot tubs with electricity. We heat them with a wood fire. It doesn't make the water any different, but it's a lot more economical to do that. And it's available for a good soak after a hike or an ATV rides or whatever. Or you can come out here and watch the stars and drink wine in the evening. So we talked about the activities, again, the architecture, the location. Now we said about 2 wild cards, and we do have 2 wild cards at Chilko that we're fortunate. We have wildlife, and then we have this vastness and the purity that people just don't get to see anyplace else. And so we have foxes and eagles and moose. We're sort of on the southern boundary for moose, so not a lot of moose. We get 1 million sockeye salmon that come up every year. But there's also cougars and wolves around, which you'll never see, and lynx and wolverines. Those are all things that I've seen over the periods. But it's wonderful. But the thing that we're most known for is our bears. When the salmon come in mid-September, sort of the last half of September, they start spawning and dying, and that's when the bears come down in numbers. And I tell people that there's more bears on the coast but there's hundreds of restaurants on the coast. At Chilko, there's only one restaurant. And bears will probably come in from a 100-mile radius to come in here and dine on these salmon. And over the course of a couple months, they will gain about 300 pounds. And they're right along the shores just eating the salmon. They don't bother you, you don't bother them. And the way we view these bears is we have some river boats that we can go up and down the river in and do a very quiet scenic tour and watch the wildlife. This isn't the best bear picture, but I like the subject matter so well. It's shot at a great distance. Most people haven't seen bear cubs that small. And bears do strange things. This water is probably 18 inches deep. And here's two bears on a very, very small rock. I'd like to know how they got up there. And they're looking for salmon. I have several thousand bear pictures, and this is probably my favorite bear picture because he looks absolutely fake. He looks like he should be in the Westminster Dog Show, all groomed up, standing just perfectly in formation here. But this is a huge bear. He's probably stood that way for 60 seconds in his life, and we just happened to get a photo. But if you look at the bear and you want to try to judge his size, if you look on his left-hand side, how far his stomach goes down, it shows that he's a very, very thick animal. I would guess this bear weighs 600 or 700 pounds. Food's a big thing at Chilko, and we have a great chef. Melissa was our chef last year. She's going to be back in 2019. Fortunately, her grandparents are from the Ukraine. She's a Canadian born, but she is very familiar with old world and new world cooking, and she's just fabulous, and she loves to be out here. We are 3 hours from a grocery store, so we send questionnaires to the guests beforehand of what they like to eat, what their allergies are, any of those kind of things. If there's special diet requirements, you're a vegan or a celiac or something like that, we can handle all those requests with foreknowledge. We can't do it if you just show up and say, oh, because it's 3 hours from the grocery store, like I said. So that's how we do it. And, so if we're having dinner and most people want a ribeye steak and there's a couple people that don't eat that, then they get special plates. And we try to be as fresh as we possibly can. We have a greenhouse on site that grows most of our salads. We also have some local gardeners around that we try to purchase product from. And then if that's not enough, we go to the grocery store like everybody else. But we're all about fresh and organic. And we like our area up there, and we don't want to put a big carbon footprint. So in 2014, we switched to solar power. And I say that we are probably about 98% self-sufficient on solar power. That building back to the left has a big battery bank in it. So we use the solar all day long, and the extra we put over into the battery bank. We use that at night, and the next morning we recharge. So it's been a nice experience for us, and I'm very proud of this. Now this is really for the travel advisors. What I have found in 2017, I did probably 65 presentations to different travel companies. And I would say that 90% of the advisors don't know the difference between a Western and a wilderness experience, and 100% of your clients don't. So let's discuss that. A Western experience is almost anything in the United States, the continental 48. There is no longer any wilderness in the lower 48. There is some wilderness in the middle of Yellowstone, or perhaps in the middle of Glacier or the Everglades. But most people aren't going to take 2 days to hike into these places to find it. So what we end up doing is going to these very elaborate, nice dude ranches. And a dude ranch isn't derogatory in any means. It just means we get most of your revenue from dudes, not cows. And Montana and Wyoming is kind of the home of the dude ranches, and there's half a dozen there that does a super, super job. But that's going to be more Western oriented, whereas a wilderness experiences can do Western. We have horses and all that sort of stuff, but Western can't do wilderness unless you're going to move in mountain ranges and glaciers and grizzly bears. And so that's the difference. And if you educate your clients that way, it may make their choice a lot different. Here's some examples. Again, this is for the travel advisors, but in Western design here, Ranch at Rock Creek, Brush Creek, Triple Creek, Paws Up, and there's 3 or 4 more that you could add here. And they are all very successful at what they do. They give good experiences, probably $1,000 to $2,000 a day is what their costs are going to be. In the wilderness size, you have to get up to BC or the Yukon or Alaska. And these are 4 lodges in BC. They're kind of our peers. Nemo Bay is rather small. Clayquat's pretty large. They started glam camping. Sonora's kind of large. And we're a boutique place that hosts 12 unrelated people. And we can do 22 for a multi-gen fam. So those are the differences. And so we talked about Western and wilderness. I'd like to throw out one other thing here, and the difference between a lodge and an estate experience. And people ask me, what is that? So I tell them, if you go to a lodge, you're going to be a guest and you're going to work with a very nice manager and you're going to have a great time. But if you come to an estate, you're a friend and you're going to work with the owners. and you're going to be an insider. So a lodge experience is like going to Disneyland with a general admission ticket. 1,000,000 people do it every year, and 1,000,000 people have a good time. An estate experience is going to Disneyland as a friend of Walt's. You're going to look at the same real estate, but the viewpoint's going to be completely different. And the thing that'll take an estate experience and turn it into a lodge experience is large numbers. You know, we host 12 people. Can we do 50? Well, sure, we just build more property. But you start losing the ratio, and things change, and it's just different. And so we're at the state of our life that I don't care to build anymore. And that's how we want to differentiate ourselves from others, is that we're going to be offering a estate experience to all of our guests. And that's what we've done for the last 20 years. This is the Chaco Sky at night, and it is absolutely wonderful. You can sit on your deck, and if you're attentive, you will see satellites go over about every 45 minutes to an hour. And you can actually see them with the naked eye. What you don't see in this picture here is in the lower right-hand corner, we have a fire pit. And 2 or 3 nights a week, depending on what the guests like to do, we'll start a fire. And the kids will get s'mores and marshmallows, and the parents will have cocktails. And it's just a great place where the art of conversation is reestablished. It's not many places in the world that it is any longer. We're all too busy. But here, everybody kind of unwinds, and it's a great time. And we enjoy it immensely. And this is the last slide. This is our gateway. In 2014, HGTV Canada came to Chilko and shot a half-hour special because of our architecture. As part of that deal, they told me they would build me an archway. So my daughter designed this, and I had my friends who are some wood carvers in Williams Lake build it for us, guys named Pioneer Log Homes. That's the Chilko experience. So with that, I would like to tell you that please go to the website. All of the homes, all the activities, the pricing, everything that you could probably think of is already on the website. Love to chat with anybody that's got questions. All of our connect information is on the website. So thank you very much, and I appreciate this. Take care. Bye-bye.